Welcome back to the Conversations with Cacao podcast, where we sip, share, and remember the magic of this sacred plant together. I am so honored to introduce today's guests, the radiant hearts behind Conscious Cacao. This is more than a cacao brand, it's a love story, a journey that began deep in the Amazon jungle, where universal light and sacred plants brought two souls together. What started with hammock conversations under jungle rain and sunsets over a lagoon has blossomed into a shared mission to offer the highest vibrational ceremonial cacao from small family farms in Peru and to spread light, healing, and connection across the world. After launching in London and building a thriving community there, Conscious Cacao has now made its way to the US. And they're just getting started. So pour yourself a cup, settle in, and enjoy this heart-opening conversation about love, purpose, sacred plant medicine, and the journey behind bringing conscious cacao to life. Welcome back to the Conversations with Cacao podcast. Right now, we are here with Natalie and Alex from Conscious Cacao, and it is such an honor to be sitting here with you today. I'm excited for our conversation and to see what will flow from our hearts, from our minds, from our wisdom here. But before we dive into that, let's make sure that we are settling in from the space of communion with self. So allowing ourselves to begin to take a deep breath in, relaxing our shoulders on the exhale, softening our jaw, elongating our spine, taking a deep breath in, and feeling the expansion all around our body in that out breath. As we allow our mind to begin to drop into our body, taking a deep breath in, exhaling and settling even deeper into our bodies, and allowing our hips to support us, allowing the basin of our hips to really be this beautiful channel that we have access to within our body, where our legs can move from as we walk on our path, that our torso can just rest upon, and allowing this humility and nobility to begin to flow through your body, feeling the strength that we have within our bodies, feeling the presence that is here within us, and knowing that our mind doesn't need to take care of everything, that we can trust our hearts, trust our body wisdom, trust our own knowing. Taking another deep breath in, exhaling all around us. And from this space of settled awareness, opening our root up to connect in with the heart of Mother Earth. Feeling the energy at the core of Mother Earth beginning to flow up. Feeling the support, the nourishment, whatever minerals you need, whatever wisdom, guidance, support you need. Just allowing yourself to receive that at this time. And allowing the wisdom of this planet to begin to flow into your feet, into your legs, into your hips, into your lower torso, all the way up into your heart. And then rooting our spine, feeling our spine strengthening and elongating, reaching the crown of our head up towards the heart of the sky as we open up to this beautiful star wisdom, the solar wisdom, the lunar wisdom, allowing the illumination of light that is all around us, and also the darkness, the void that holds the in-between. And feeling this energy begin to flow down in pure love, pure support, pure wisdom, pure truth, flowing into your mind, activating the light-sensitive parts of your brain, flowing into your eyes that you may see clearly, flowing into your ears that you may hear clearly, flowing into your mouth that you may speak the words that resonate with your truth, with your heart, with your joy, flowing this energy into your throat and clearing any spaces where we might contract our expression, and allowing ourselves to just take this deep breath and releasing that all as we allow more of ourselves into the present moment, flowing this energy down into our shoulders, our arms, our hands, down into our heart space, and flowing down deeper into our solar plexus, activating the identity of self, the willpower, the capability, the knowledge that I am an extension of Source. I am an extension of all that is connected in this oneness, bringing the energy down into our sacral, into our lower back, into our hips, into our legs, down into our feet. And just for this moment in time, trusting that these words were just activations and that your energy knows exactly what to do. Trusting that for this time during this conversation, you are held, that you don't need to be or do or have anything. You can simply receive and explore different ideas in a new way with love and gentleness. And as we cultivate the softness of our heart, just extending this love and beaming it out to all of our listeners right now, seeing this connection, this interconnection from all across the globe, and allowing yourself to receive this love. And then beaming our love to our guests today, beaming it to Natalie and Alex, letting them feel this beautiful, generous spirit that lives in all of us. And then beaming this energy to the past listeners and feeling the love from the past listeners and beaming it to all future listeners and feeling that love from the future listeners in the now as we connect and unify in the present moment to have a beautiful and deep conversation of what flows through, guided by Mama Cacao. And today we have the honor of having Natalie and Alex bless our cacao with us. So I will open the space for them to share their blessings.
So if you'd like to just take your cacao in your hand, just closing down the eyes and taking a few moments here to connect with the medicine of the Mama Cacao, feeling the warmth in your hands and just spending a moment here to connect and setting an intention. And I give a short blessing. I give thanks to the heart in the sky. I give thanks to the heart in the earth. I give thanks to the heart in the fire. And I give thanks to the heart in the water. I give thanks to all of those that brought this cacao all the way from Peru to us here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. From the farmers to the cooperatives, the people involved in the production process to the delivery, I give thanks. I give thanks to the origins of the cacao that you're also drinking today. I give thanks to Mama Cacao for infinite support, guidance, and wisdom. And then just whenever you're ready, just take it that first sip. I would say it's like a hug in a mug.
Thank you so much for that blessing. Welcoming you to the space. Thank you so much. And if you wish to share an intention for this call that you have for our listeners, for yourselves.
Intentions to connect with you, to connect with our listeners, to connect with Mama Cacao, and just to flow, to share the love, to share the spirit of this beautiful medicine that we work with.
To vibrate as closely as we can to this beautiful heart-opening plant.
Feeling the vibration of your words as really beautiful transmissions, and really in these past days, like really feeling our words as these vibrational transmissions that can open up so much possibility. When we speak our intentions in this way, it's like vibrating closer to the heart, allowing this flow, this joy. We just call in all of these energies and these allies. So, really feeling that at this time. I've been doing a lot of quantum meditation, so I'm like very easily tipping into the very, very spacious awareness. But I would love for you to introduce yourselves, share a little bit with our listeners about your journey, where you're from, who you are, and how you came to work with cacao.
Okay. So I am from Dundee, Scotland, but I lived in London for 13 years up until last summer. My journey with cacao started around 3 years ago. I was attending an online summer solstice ceremony, and the facilitator said, "Bring cacao." And it was like a Wednesday, it was raining. I was working. I used to work in recruitment in the corporate world, and I was like running around London trying to find this cacao. And I eventually sourced some after many Ubers, and yeah, joined the ceremony, and it was my first time. And I felt as soon as I had cacao, just my heart open, and I just felt this really beautiful connection. Along that time, I was also working with the moon, so full moon for releasing, new moon for intentions, and was kind of quite deep into my healing journey. So through working with my own ceremonies and my own healing, and really connecting with Mama Cacao, it just came through quite quickly that I would go on to then facilitate circles. So starting with women's circles in London, working with the moon, so the full moon for releasing, new moon for setting intentions, and that I would help others heal with this medicine. So then from there, I studied. So I did a cacao facilitator course. My teacher was in Guatemala. He worked with the Mayans. So that was really beautiful and allowed me just to really go deeper and learn the tools that I needed to, hold space and facilitate for others, as well as, of course, the origins and the background and all the beautiful, beautiful ways the Mayans work with cacao. A few months after that, I left the corporate world. I had the name Conscious Cacao came to me in the bath. I was like, I have this vision. I know what I'm here to do. I'm going to leave corporate, studied Reiki, was very much, okay, I'm here to be a healer. And then I was like, I need a name. And it just came in the bath one night. So I had this vision. I had the name, but I didn't have a supplier. So I had this trip planned to go to Peru. And part of the trip was to go to a retreat to the jungle, which is where I met Alex. At the same time, I was also manifesting this soulmate relationship. And then from the jungle, I flowed into meeting the supplier of the Sacred Valley that we work with today. So yeah, that's how I started working with cacao.
Oh, I love that journey. And I love the wisdom, connected to the waters, and then the wisdom just flows in when we're least expecting it. So beautiful.
My healing journey started about 6 years ago. I worked in the humanitarian relief field. I worked in Egypt, in Kenya, spent some time in Kyrgyzstan. Kind of looking back, clearly bouncing around, looking for something, not staying anywhere too long. And in this process of this work that I did, working specifically with refugees and gender-related issues, I accumulated a lot of essentially secondary PTSD and trauma, and ended up being, essentially fundamentally depressed. And I started looking. I need to heal. I recognized a shift, change from when I was younger. And my one of my good friends invited me to walk the Camino de Santiago, which is across Spain. It's a pilgrimage. Just walk every day for like 6 hours. And that's when I started meditating. I had been wanting to for a while, but finally that was the space to really do it. And I committed to it. I got on the Calm app. I said, I'm going to do this challenge. And it took to me really quickly. Like, really quickly, I was like, well, this is just great. I'm feeling good. I can see that I'm in a sense developing more free will, starting to observe the thoughts, being able to respond rather than react based on subconscious programming. I would meditate in the middle of a castle. I was just meditating all the time, essentially, whenever I really could. And that kick-started my journey. And eventually, I would realize that I wasn't going to be satisfied working in that particular form of humanitarian relief, which is ultimately controlled by United Nations funding and international politics, that wasn't the right form of service for me. And I needed to focus on healing myself to be of greater service first. And I spent the next 3 or 4 years pretty much exclusively doing that. I would go and I would live in the Amazon jungle for a year and a half, studying the Shibibo Kanibo sacred plant medicine, focusing exclusively on healing and connecting with spirits, plant spirits in particular. I worked with a variety of plants during this time, but interestingly, not cacao. Even though cacao was growing all around me, I didn't know it was cacao. My teacher didn't really work with cacao in that way, so he didn't mention it to me. I remember seeing his family eat the fruit. They were sitting there eating it. I had no idea what it was. It was this odd plant. And as I was opening up more and more to the spiritual realm, especially to the plant spiritual realm, I would have dreams of plants, where I would just find myself standing in front of a plant, looking at it. What's up with this plant? This plant's different than the other plants. And then I would learn it was a medicinal plant. And I had a dream of a cacao pod, and I had no idea what it was. It was a yellow pod, which is a bit unusual because the cacao that we work with ripens when it's yellow. It's unique to this strain. And I was like, what is this strange plant? And then later on, Natalie came and she started talking to me about cacao. And I went to a cacao farm with her in the village. And I was like, that's the plant from my dream. I was like, what are you doing here? And that was foreshadowing. We essentially fell in love in the jungle. It was really clear that our paths were interwoven, that we were going to be together. At that time, I thought I might be in the jungle anywhere from 2 to 20 more years. I had no idea what I was doing. But I knew I was missing a core ingredient of my life, and that when she'd come, it would change everything. And it did. I left a couple of months after she did, in kind of a whirlwind of a time. Just got the message, your time's done here. You look at your intents, they've all happened. And one of my big intents was for my soulmate to come, and I was feeling it. Most of the time, it was just me there, by myself. And I was reflecting. I was like, oh, she's coming. I can feel it. I was thinking about possible partners. And I was like, I really like Europe. Europe's nice. I like canals. And I've never been to the UK, but I would later learn that the UK had even more canals than Amsterdam and the Netherlands, which is what I thought of. I was like, it's really nice. And then I heard this group was coming of some British people, and I just knew. And I went and I bought an artisanal from a lady in the community that represents the plant Bobensana. And I went and I bought it. It was like a week before she came, and I said, this is for my partner. She is coming, and she will work with this plant. And the lady's like, okay, sure. And then sure enough, Natalie comes, and then like our first conversation, she's like, yeah, I think I'd like to study with this Bobensana plant. So I would be patient, I would wait, and it would ultimately be my first gift to her in a couple of weeks. But there were tests during that time. I received like a really clear message that I needed to do a bout of silence for like a week, which I would often do when people would come. I would hold space, I would share, and then I would retreat back and let people focus on themselves, and me do the same. But this was the hardest one. So I was like, I've waited all this time. She's only going to be here 4 weeks. Like, I'm supposed to be here 20 years. Like, what am I supposed to do? So it was really hard, but I listened to my guides and was really patient and also restless. But during that time, I felt like I got like another wave of healing. Like this whole time, I'd clearly been healing, preparing myself for my partner. It was in my intent. There was a final wave of healing there. And then I came out and I was ready to mingle, single and ready to mingle. She ended up actually staying a week longer after everyone had left. So we got that week back. And we left the jungle. She left the jungle before me. I would end up in the US first visiting family, and she came to visit and she brought cacao. And this was my introduction to actually consuming the ceremonial cacao that we work with from Peru. And cacao would provide a fundamental role in helping me integrate my various lessons, helping me ground back into society, connecting with other people. And in the ceremonial space, I feel like something that's not talked about a lot is that, yes, cacao opens up the heart space and she grounds, she does all these fantastic things, but she can also act as a subtle portal to the spiritual realm. When I sat with intent, all of a sudden I realized all of my spiritual allies just appeared in this space and that I could work in this space. And I spent an extended time, just me and the plant working, getting a feel for Mama Cacao's energy, how she wanted to work, through and with me, and then began doing ceremonies about a year and a half ago, almost. I do guided meditations in the ceremonies. I sing Ikaros, sacred songs in the Shibibo language that I received from my spirit guides in the jungle. My meditations are often shamanic. We also work with deities, Ganesha, Kali, Shiva. So we'll do like a Ganesha cacao ritual that's focused on the root chakra. And these energies for us are kind of always playing in the ceremonial space, if you will, even if not spoken. And now we're here.
When I left the jungle, I just knew I was looking for cacao. So it's like, okay, I've got one big intent done there, and I didn't know where I was going to go. So I went to Pulkapa to integrate, and I was like, okay, universe, give me a sign. So then I walked into a shop one day and there was a Machu Picchu sign. I was like, okay, I'll go to Cusco. Booked an Airbnb, checked in, went for a wander. Literally right underneath the Airbnb, I met this lovely Peruvian man who worked with cacao, who had ethical sources. He had some that I tried, and that was it. It was like I couldn't believe it. And I tried this beautiful Chuncho cacao, and I was like, yeah, I'll order 10 kilos. He was like, okay. And I took it back to London, and that was where I prepared to launch conscious cacao, and yeah, I really look at holding that space for people in ceremonies. So yeah, it's really, really beautiful.
The synchronicity and the weaving of the dream world into the physical and the spirit realm, and just the listening to your intuition, really honoring you and your journey and seeing you as the embodiment of allowing yourself to act in alignment with your truth and where it leads you. It's like the most magical story ever. Oh man, I have so many questions. I find the beauty of, like, as you said, connecting to these plants, and this is why we're here. Conversations with Cacao is opening up the space to not only talk about cacao, but what she carries with us and what she facilitates for us. The connection of the plants, how they speak to us, and learning how to listen, how to work with them. And I think it's really beautiful that you both have this connection of, you hear the call and then you respect it and you act upon it. And if you would like to speak to this aspect of really deepening your relationship with listening to plants, listening to your own intuition, and how they both work together. But yeah, any direction you want to go on with that. So.
First, I will acknowledge that it's challenging. It takes time, it takes commitment, and it ultimately takes a building of trust. It takes lots of practices to help kind of quiet the mind. Practices aren't necessarily sitting in silent meditation for 9 hours a day. They're not necessarily these very hardcore practices. It might mean when you go to the forest not wearing headphones and listening to music, just creating more silence, more openness for you to receive messages from spirit. For me, messages have always come in essentially the form of thoughts, not necessarily as a voice, so to say. So there becomes the challenge of interpreting where this thought is coming from. And I think it's normal at the beginning to be very intimidated and unsure. What ends up happening is that you build the trust. And for me, it was just really small things. Like before I left my final job in Kenya, it was just like, here's a really basic thing. I would go to the grocery store and I would feel this connection. It would say, buy this, buy this, buy this. I'm in Nairobi. I don't even know all the things I'm buying. What was this? And then I would get home to the kitchen, and I was no great cook by any means. I barely cooked really. But all of a sudden, I would just be whipping up these just fantastic Indian dishes, like doing things I had no idea. And it was like, see, listen to us. Listen to us. I would just take this beautiful walk, just being kind of guided, walking around Nairobi, for hours, and then would end up in this really secluded church, for example, one time. And I was actually in that church when I received personal news from my family here that I've been waiting for, and it was positive. And I was sitting in that church, and there was just like, just have faith, just have faith, just have faith. That's it. Just trust us. And it was more than just the energy of that church, which is the Christian energy. So I have a background in that. But it was the broader energy of the light, all of them representing the light. And then ultimately, the big one came and said, you ain't got money. In fact, you're in debt, but you don't like this job. You've worked for years to get this job, but it's not what you thought it was going to be. Your intention is clearer now that you just want to be of service. It's time to leave the job. It's time to take the job. And I had just a whirlwind of healing in those past couple weeks, just trying to get closer and closer. I thought I might literally leave my job, have no money, and just walk into the Kenyan wilderness where there are lions. I had no idea, what I was going to do. But through these little things, I built the trust. You just have to make one step. Right? This is one thing I've learned from this journey over and over again. It's really humbling, where at times I might start getting kind of full of myself. Vision's getting really good. I can see 15 years out, No. No. Like, I do have some visions, and they will come into reality, especially if I focus intention and manifesting on them. Ultimately, really all I ever have to do is be present. In fact, I can overwhelm myself if I try to think about too many things. Just in the same way in the jungle, I was present when Natalie came. All these things that you thought you were going to do, you're not going to do them. And they fell away one by one by one. And to ultimately, the big leap of faith that we had, we were in Peru for 8 months before here, living in the Sacred Valley, visiting our cacao farmers. We loved it there. It was a beautiful time. We could have easily stayed there years. But it was really clear that we were to come here. And it was a big jump for us, for me to come back home, for Natalie to come to America. It was a huge jump, and we're still working through it. We're still figuring it out. But we see the pieces come together one by one, one by one.
Yeah. I think for me, what's coming to me is a technique we learned in my cacao facilitator course, was that we would be encouraged to get a pillow and pretend this pillow was Mama Cacao, and we would have dialogue with Mama Cacao. So I really enjoyed that. And I think when I reflect on the difference between my intuition and the guide from Mama Cacao or spirit, I like that dialogue. So sometimes a ceremony will be, what is this heavy energy? Like, please guide me. And I love journaling. So I find for me, like, it came to drop out of like my head. No, it's not intuition, it's just writing. So I find a lot of things come through writing. I also dieted cacao in January of this year, which was a really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful process, and really allowed me to go deeper with my connection with her and receiving things from mantras to songs to writing her a love letter, like all of these things that I would I would never think of. So I feel like for me it's been that dialogue, but I also resonate with what Alex was sharing about just that trust. Like I was on my healing journey, I was studying Reiki, I knew I didn't want to be in the corporate world anymore, but I was also like, oh, what am I going to do, financially? Like, is this the right thing to do? But it was just this inner knowing. And I was also super burnt out. Like I used to experience anxiety and depression, which I helped heal through Reiki and cacao. So it was almost just like, just take that leap and we will catch you. The universe will catch you. Like we're here. This is what you're here to do. So it took some time to trust and finally take the plunge. And the trip to Peru had just aligned so beautifully with everything too. So yeah, I think that's how I would differentiate between the two, is that kind of dialogue.
Yeah.
That's a really important point too, because I think there is this idea of surrender.
Mm.
But for me, like the recent lessons that we've had in like the last year or two is that creators of our own reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have a say in this. Is this what we want? Like when we talked about coming here, it wasn't just there was a sign from spirit and we said, yeah, okay, absolutely. We went through a process of working with spirits, of using our minds, of using our hearts, of researching what are our intentions for the next several years of our life? What are we trying to do? And the message from spirit, it was that conversation, right? It was you're you're grown up now. You're capable of navigating this with our guidance, and you're capable of setting your own intentions and manifesting your own reality through constant presence.
That's a really important part to hone in on, is that sovereignty. We have free will, and do we exercise that free will? Do we allow ourselves to recognize and take the time to realize, am I in a program, or is this me consciously and actively participating in life? Having that dialogue, having that conversation. I love having conversations. I love conversations with myself too, of seeing like, all right, well, how far can I go? Is this what I really need? What's really happening here? Is there something I'm not seeing? And all these questions that begin to shape my relationship with where I am. It's really beautiful bringing that conversation in with plant medicine, but also with whatever you want to call it, source, energy, consciousness, the quantum field, God, whatever label you want to give it, that this is a co-creation. We're in a co-creative space and reality, and it takes our participation in our life to drive it where we want to go. So really beautiful. Thank you for bringing that aspect in. And again, like that trust too. The fascinating thing about trust is like we're born with it. I know when my daughter, she was a baby, holding her in my arms, and I just looked down at her and she'd just sleep no matter what, sleep in my arms. And I was like, wow, the amount of trust she just has. She's just born with it, and thinking it doesn't matter where she is, she just has faith. She has trust. She's nourished, she's held, and she can just let go and sleep in somebody's arms. And that always really stuck with me, and cultivating that aspect of it. And then having the tools, right? Like you were saying, Natalie, having the tools of taking objects and using them in a way that we practice dialogue, seeing what comes from that, or even journaling, really exercising our own experience and seeing what arises from those spaces. Dieting with a plant is, for those listeners that maybe don't quite understand the depth and what that entails, and then also what it means when we begin to relate to a plant, because it sounds kind of abstract, sounds a little weird, sounds a little woo for some people, but maybe you want to share a little bit more about the vibrations of different plants, or how people can begin to understand what it actually means to connect with a plant.
So a plant dieta in the tradition of the Amazon rainforest, it's a spiritual practice, one of healing, one of learning, one of transformation. They can be focused more on physical healing. They can be focused more on spiritual development. They can do a weaving of both. It's going to depend entirely on the plant and the teacher that you're learning with. So your teacher, maestro, Spanish, will have an array, a pharmacy of plant spirits that they work with. You come and they'll see your intention and they'll hear it through spoken word. And they will align that attention with the plant that makes the most sense, that's an energetic match for you. So some plants are very patient teachers. And if you're very early in working with plants, it makes sense to be with a patient loving teacher. Cacao is a very patient loving teacher. Some plants are very stern, and there are rules to this relationship, and if you don't follow them, there can be discipline that's uncomfortable. Generally, you start with a nice, soft, loving energy that's patient. And the shaman makes this connection. You will consume the plant, generally quite a small amount, depending on the plant, though, depending on how this maestro works. And the maestro will then make a spiritual connection between you and the plant. So it's like the vibrations of the plant that you consume become alive within you. The spirit is anchored within you. You must make an array of life sacrifices, offerings during this time to this plant spirit because they're extremely high vibrational and they're sensitive. So, for example, they cannot exist with pork or beef in your body. They can't exist with salt or oil in your body. Your thoughts need to be positive, and they will help you become that, especially if they're patient. If it's a stern teacher, they're not going to tolerate too much negativity, right? And through this process, they're teaching and they're healing. They're cleaning your mind. They're cleaning your body, your organs, your energy. And the longer that you have this connection with this plant, the deeper and deeper your connection gets, the stronger and stronger it gets. And then throughout this process, your teacher will be looking at the connection in the shamanic space, keeping it clean. It's important to have a maestro who has a very good connection with this plant and is able to protect it, because you are not going to vibrate at the level of a sacred plant your first time. You're going to have thoughts that don't agree with that vibration. So this maestro cleans this, and he puts protection over the plant, variety of forms, smudging, energetic within you, to make sure that the plant doesn't get harmed. And it grows. It literally grows straight and not crooked. All right? And then when you finish and close this connection, they put additional protection over you. You are oftentimes very sensitive and very open during this time because you have been opened to the spiritual realm in a very tremendous way. And you will go through a period of integrating. And really, the integration is the rest of your life. It's more intense for the first few days and the first weeks, but this plant will always be with you, especially if you seek out connecting with this plant. It can guide you in every moment.
Yeah, I mean, the cacao dieta was really beautiful. So I had a tincture from our teacher in Peru, and he was like, oh, normally, because they have different levels. So there was like a cacao, there was like a normal one, and then a cacao stone, which was an extraction of something really complex. And he was like, you already have a connection, so I'll put you on like the next level straight away, so to speak. And it was great because I was also able to drink cacao, and we were part of a retreat. So had lots of restrictions. He was like, no, I encourage you, have your cacao, eat your cacao in ceremony. I was like, okay, great. But it was really towards the end of the dieta, the real gift started to come. And she was very clear. She was like, embody me. I'm nurturing, nourishing, loving, open-hearted. She's like, embody me. Like you're an embodiment of me. Write me a love letter. And it's reminding me now, I'm still to share the love letter. I've said I want to write it up and put it out there. So it's remind me. But she's like, this is what, you're here to do. So in terms of a vibrational sense, it's just very, very even more kind of deepening into the heart and really raising that vibration and just really feeling this urge to go out and embody her in everything that I do, whether it's a spiritual practice, a meditation, holding space for others, or just in the day to day. Not everything spiritual happens on a mat or on a meditation cushion. So it's just really clear to embody her and carry that energy. Yeah, it's really, really special time.
And you embody her energy brilliantly. I noted that very early on and then meeting Natalie. The It's kind of loving, caring nature. When you work with a plant closely, you're matching their vibration, and that's their vibration. Some of them are a little bit more masculine, consciousness, Shiva, Christ, but still loving. Some of them are more in the feminine energy, heart space. Really beautiful. And they all kind of have their own ways of communicating. And one thing that's really, really important when you first come to working with these plants is to not compare other people's experiences to you. You're going to have your own unique connection. And some people might sit down with a plant the very first time, connect with the plant spirit, and it's just like, wow, even now, after 5 or 6 years of doing this, I'm like, wow, I don't experience anything that strong in this. This was the first time. We have different gifts. Different gifts. And this person may have worked with cacao, like maybe Natalie worked with cacao for 20 lifetimes, and that connection's still there, right? An example of how I opened up to this plant spiritual realm is I don't feel like I came incredibly open to it. I came with a sense of trust, of curiosity, of openness, but not like some people that I've met in my journey. First thing to note is that to not judge the strength of the plant and their ability to teach and to heal based on how strong they appear in your presence. Some plants work subtly in the background and gradually make themselves known. Some bust out into the center stage right away, like I'm here. That's their personality. That's their uniqueness. They're both equally so. And for me, one of the first plants that I connected with is a plant called Pino Colorado. When I started working with this plant has purple leaves. They're like a hand. It's a beautiful plant to brush. Beautiful flowers that open up in the sun, close in the moon. So I was working with this plant, and I wasn't really sure how to know if I was receiving messages from this plant. But something started to happen. I started to get really, really close to the moon. I would look at the moon a lot. I would walk by a plant and see the plant in the moonlight, say, oh, you're a moon plant. I would hear songs. Like songs come to me a lot from spirit. There's this old, like they'd be old songs, like this old Savage Garden song. I'll take you to the moon and back if you will. I would have songs like that come. All these songs about the moon.
It's a great song.
It's a throwback. And then one day I asked my teacher, I said, how do I know if I'm connecting to this plant? And he said one thing, the moon. That's what this plant does. She connects you to the moon. She opens up your heart. She moves traumas. Says all sorts of things. You drink this plant, you can take it in like a steam bath. She'll clear you out. These subtle ways, they can penetrate your thoughts long before you're aware that they're there.
I love that, because these master plant teachers that I get a lot of celebration and curiosity around. And for me, the beginning of my journey was, just like chamomile, just connecting in with this beautiful, for me, I think chamomile is so powerful and has brought so much healing in my life and has definitely guided me to different plants along the way. And even just cooking, and I loved how you brought that story in before of like you're going to the supermarket and you're just picking these ingredients. It's like these are medicines, these have spirit, and they're guiding, like, yeah, this is the nutrients that you want. Connect with us and let's play together, and not discrediting this really soft and gentle ones. And for me, also recognizing they work at this more gentle level, so I also have to become softer to receive. And I notice myself when I'm like, no, not peppermint, not chamomile. Like, it's not strong enough. Like, I need something, I'm in that, like, the hustle mode, or I got to get stuff done. And it's like, oh, no, that's exactly when I should slow down and really allow myself to just receive that really soft medicine and see what I can hear from what is being shared. That's maybe not as loud as these other plants. And recognizing that they're vibrations and frequencies. And I always see that, especially with the crystalline realm too, like these are really, really clear frequencies from the earth. They're like, this is what I am. if this is the frequency I am. If you want to do this, like this is what I am. That's all. I'm doing a lot of the Dr. Joe Dispenza quantum meditations at this time. And hearing him, he's like, love is a faster frequency and will entrain a lower frequency. And also talking about, sometimes he talks about the space where these interdimensional beings come in to help with healing. You're going a little woo, but if he's saying it, that these interdimensional beings will come in, they'll take tumors out, they'll facilitate in healing. But they said, you have to bring the room to a certain level because we will only lower our frequency so low. And then we actually change our consciousness, and we would never do that. So you have to meet us. You have to get your vibration high enough so that we can lower it low enough so that we can have this conversation. And I feel like that's a lot similar to what you're talking about with plant medicine too, where we have to make sure our body's clear, our minds are clear, so that we can actually begin to even have that conversation with this plant, because the plant will meet us, but we have to meet the plant as well.
Love Dr. Joe Dispenza. It was with meditations that I manifested Alex. I manifested conscious cacao. Like literally, that's what I was working on in the lead up to going away. Yeah, he's great. I think he was in Nashville actually last month.
Oh, yeah?
Doing a retreat, and there was a guy came and bought cacao from us, and he was telling us like just how magical people were like walking and couldn't walk, and just how amazing it was. And I was like, maybe you'll come to the ecstatic dance after. Take it out and buy some cacao.
Oh, that's really cool. How did your journey with that kind of meditation start for you?
It was good. It was actually through someone I used to work with in coaching, and she works a lot with Joe Dispenza. So she'd given me, there was like 2 different meditations. So you would write down like what you're manifesting, and then like different bullet points, and then you would write down the like self-limiting beliefs that would come with that, whether it was like self-worth or lack of abundance or anything, what it would be for that particular area. And then you would draw like this symbol. I can't quite remember the symbol, but it's like a symbol. You go on this to this day. So you do the meditation to, I think it's the yeah. So that you would have a symbol for each like category, and then you would do a meditation to really reprogram those beliefs. So you would, at the point of the meditation, you're like releasing, and it's like, okay, now switch it to manifesting, and then think of that symbol. So I really enjoyed it. I was doing them quite often in that space of transition, really. For so relationship, conscious cacao, for having, for being of service. And yeah, it was really powerful work. We keep saying we should start doing his work again because it's really, really powerful.
Oh yeah, definitely. The symbol is for those who may not know, you attribute a letter or any kind of symbol that you want, but he suggests a letter, and then that letter represents the goal that you want, and then you put 2 squiggly lines around it, which represent the electromagnetic field of that we are. So we're pulling in through our energy and our electromagnetism. I am very curious as to, you said you called in Alex and conscious cacao through these meditations, and what you were really feeling in that state. If you wish to share that, how you began to cultivate that in your life. Because I'm sure there are lots of people who are like, I want to do that. How'd you do that?
Commitment to doing the meditations when I was, recommended to. Obviously, at the same time, in parallel to this, working with Mama Cacao and deepening that connection, focusing on my healing a lot. I went through in my Reiki practitioner training an unraveling of the heart, so to speak. When I had my attunement, the Reiki master said you have a lot of like chains on your heart from past hurts and past traumas. So it was really just delving deeper with Mama Cacao and the Reiki, and Reiki doing a lot of self-healing to really unravel and let go of those barriers. So yeah, I feel like that cacao was a big part of it, the meditations, and just trust. Also the moon. I've worked a lot with the moon for over 3 years now. I really enjoy having an opportunity every month to release fears, blockages, self-limiting beliefs, and then 2 weeks later having that opportunity to set intentions each month. I had a vision board. I'd have different I'm Virgo rising, so I'm like super organized in some ways. So I had like different color post-its for, work, different color post-its for personal life, different color post-its for like ecstatic dances, which is, also kind of unraveled here. So it's really a combination of those things and just trust. But to be honest, there was so many intents and so much healing that I went to the jungle for it, as well as the cacao. Like, it was a really pleasant surprise when I was like, oh, and we were on our way there. It's really sunburnt for once. It was really embarrassing when we first met, because I'd lay on top of this boat on the Amazon River, of course, like Brit abroad, no cream on. So I turned up to the jungle looking like a lobster. But on the way there, someone had mentioned, oh, there's an American guy, Alex, that's lived there for like the past year working with plants. And something in me was just like, okay, it was like this little like inner fire. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, but I'm not going to attach. I'm going there to heal, like all this. And then we met and I was like, okay, like I feel like I've known this guy for lifetimes. So yeah, it was really, really beautiful. But I feel like it was a combination of all those really modalities. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love hearing your side of the story too, of the leading up to how you met. I would love for you to share about your cacao and the farmers and the farms where you source from. And I am aware that you source different cacaos depending on the US, which you're now serving or sharing cacao in as well, or as opposed to the UK. And if you'd like to, just share about your sourcing and what it looks like.
Yeah, so we work with the Tuncho cacao in the jungle. The jungle that we work with is called Kateni, so it's like the Cusco jungle, so right underneath the Andes Mountains, and we work with small family farms there. Part of the community. What's the community? The Masa community called? I can never say. Matsukiki community, but they work within agroforestry techniques. So when we went there to the jungle earlier this year, there's bananas, papayas, pineapples, avocados, as well as cacao. So it was really beautiful. I mean, just to be there, but also see Mama Cacao thrive in her environment, surrounded by all of these other, fruits and things as well. So yeah, we work with chuncho, which is very specific to this region of Peru. It's very specific to just underneath the Andes Mountains. Also smaller. Oh, we have one here. It's also smaller. So this is an old one. So it's like a little rattle. So much smaller than other cacao pods. And she doesn't cross-pollinate with any other trees. So it's 100% strain, which makes her very, very unique. And what we found, because we sampled so many different cows, we lived in Latin America last year, so Guatemala, Mexico, searching for a second supplier. And we found that this cacao is just very smooth, very velvety, very, beautiful, beautiful energy. And the cooperative that we work with is really, really nice as well.
And that's for the UK?
That's for the UK. Yeah, that's for the UK. We hope to get it here at some point, but I said the regulations and things are different. So that's the UK one.
And that's the farmer that you met just underneath?
Just underneath Airbnb. He's involved in the cooperative and the family farms and things, and he sources for himself too. So that's who I met literally underneath the Airbnb when I flew out the jungle and decided to just go to Cusco. Cancelled my flight back to London. I was like, okay, let's do this. So yeah, it's been really quite surreal because of course we lived in Peru for 8 months before we moved here. So to go back and see him with Alex, it was like, wow, like this is so surreal. Like we got a picture outside the Airbnb and I was just like, wow, I can't believe like where I was at 2.5 years ago. We're now here together and doing this. So yeah. And the US one?
Yes. It is from the Ashaninka tribe. They're fairly isolated, deep in the jungle, deep down the river. It's with a co-op that is entirely Ashaninka, entirely ran indigenous co-op. We are one of the earliest people to bring this specific co-op's cacao to the US. And they work specifically with the Criolla bean. And they're using similar techniques as to the Tuncho. It's agroforestry-like, but it's more based on their wisdom. They have been largely untouched by outside influence. When outsiders came, they just went deeper and deeper into the jungle. They border against the untouchables the people who have no contact with the outside world. And their techniques are extremely old. So their form of agroforestry, it's of course entirely organic, as is our chincho suppliers in the UK. The UK one also has fair trade certification, and so do they. They will plant some of the cacao together. So in that sense, it kind of looks like a Western farm. But then they surround it with all sorts of other fruit trees. And then, of course, surrounding that is vast amounts of untouched rainforest. So they are protecting the mega diversity of the rainforest, which is incredibly important to us. To us, part of what makes cacao ceremonial grade is the ethics, is the energy behind it. And that starts literally with the roots of the plant and the soil. So having these different fruit trees around, the Tuncho small family farmers are also surrounded by just rainforest that they're leaving alone, protecting that mega diversity. And of course, the people themselves, that they're treated ethically, that they have a positive relationship with the land, with Mother Earth, or Pachamama, and that they are treated fairly from those who buy from them. And in the Ashaninka approach, how they will work with this piece of land for a handful of decades, the duration of the cacao's life, and then they leave that land alone. They realize that Mother Earth is rich and abundant, but has her limits. And they go somewhere else with this ultimate long-term vision of understanding that their grandchildren, great-grandchildren, a century later, will come back to that land, ultimately protecting it. Mm-hmm. So that is the Criollo bee. Both of them, when they arrive to conscious cacao, we bless them. Natalie performs Reiki. I do a shamanic blessing and cleansing, and I'm enhancing the vibration of the medicine, cleaning off the natural energies that get picked up as things go through the distribution chain, and getting it ready so that when it arrives at someone's front door and into their cup, it's ready to go.
That's very beautiful. And then you infuse your extra magic in there too.
Yeah, and we have a sister in London who distributes cacao in the UK, and she further blesses it.
I'm curious about the Ashaninka, their relationship to cacao. Is this a newer relationship that they've developed, or is there a longer history of their connection to cacao?
As I understand, there is a longer history. So there are historians debate a bit on where cacao originated at, maybe multiple places at once, but there is strong history that it may have originated actually in South America and moved to these countries in Central America that we associate with cacao, like Guatemala and the Mayans, through trade.
Okay.
Through the Olmecs, perhaps initially, and that the Mayans may have actually learned some of their traditions from the Olmecs, as it naturally happens. So the Ashaninka and these people in Peru and these jungle are believed to have a pretty ancient relationship with the plant. Their nature of working with the plant is medicinal, what we understand. There's an understanding that cacao is a plant that has always been traded, that this is part of how she's traveled around. And from my feeling, and clearly from their feeling, their connection with the earth and with plants, Mama Cacao is generally okay with that. When she's respected in a certain way, she's happy to go to far off lands to help heal us, as long as it's done in a responsible way. So our understanding is that the Ashaninka have worked with cacao for a long time in a medicinal way, in their own way that's going to be very different than the Mayans. The Mayans have their own beautiful tradition. It's absolutely lovely. But the Ashaninka are different. They're in a different continent in South America. And also this understanding that they feel comfortable trading this sacred plant.
There are seeds of, what is it? When you have the energy of something and then you have to translate it into words, is what I'm feeling. I think just the beauty of the plant, as you were saying, like when she's respected, of course, she wants to share the medicine. She wants to activate. She wants to travel. And I think that is a really present energy in cacao, is this abundance, activating the abundance of time, the abundance of love, the abundance of the energy and the capacity to heal and how she just gives so freely. And in a previous conversation, I had this realization in a way where we were talking about cacao and the trade and also like genetically modified foods and how originally cacao was money, you know, it was more valuable than gold, and many seeds were more valuable than the fine metals. And recognizing, for me, I haven't fully integrated this idea or concept, but it was the idea that money that we have, the currency we have now, is almost like genetically modified money. It's like the original form was the abundance that we gain, the seeds of potential that flows around. And for me, when I tune into the energy of this vision of Mama Cacao traveling, leaving the jungle, bringing her love to so many people and allowing that to flow, I'm like, okay, I understand money. When I translate it to money, I'm like, something, I don't quite get it yet. So I'm still bridging those two worlds. I'm not sure if there's anything that sparks something within you to share about that. Otherwise, I can move us on to a different topic too.
The thing that's coming up with me is a really beautiful aspect of the Ashaninka, and it gives an insight into an indigenous culture and their approach. Is that they've played with Mama Cacao for a very long time. So they like to combine strains to pull out certain flavors and all these things. It's fun. It's a game, all respectful of the plant. And that's a really, really beautiful aspect of their practice. It's that flexibility.
I always love sharing with people in ceremonies about how the Mayans used to work with cacao, that, it was a currency. They would drink it before weddings, before political meetings, to ensure everyone's hearts were on the same page. And if a man wanted to ask for his partner's hand in marriage, he would give like the father or the parents like cacao. And I think we had some fun facts in our cacao facilitator course. Tamale, can you remember how many cacao seeds were for a tamale or for like a night porter? So yeah, it's really beautiful to remember that that's what they used to do.
That's really fun. I didn't know the aspect of asking for your daughter's hand in marriage.
It's original.
I can't wait to try the cacao. I'm very excited for that. Do you ship to other places outside of the UK in Europe?
We can, yeah, like a case by case. The website isn't set up for it yet, but we can do it case by case.
Okay.
Instagram will definitely be the channel for the US on there.
Beautiful. I grew up in Vienna, Austria, and have connections in Berlin too, and so I know they'll be listening. I'm like, I want to try your cacao.
Your dream you shared was really beautiful.
Oh yeah, so cool.
That was amazing.
So I had this dream that it was after the first time we were supposed to meet at a different time a couple weeks ago, and it was interesting because it was the first time I have ever dreamt about a guest or anybody that I hadn't met before the call. And you had produced this, like Milka chocolate. And it was a beautiful ceremonial cacao chocolate, but it looked like Milka. It was like thin. And then a part, like the last third of it was just white macambo or patache. And it's interesting because I did actually blend macambo and cacao today. I was like, I feel like macambo. And then I remembered the dream that I just wrote you yesterday too. And you sold it in Billa. And then there was something with a pink bird. I don't remember what that was. I wish I had written it down then because I would have been able to share it a little bit more accurately. And it was really interesting because it felt very much like your energy. And it was the first time I had ever dreamt about a guest from this podcast in that way. And I just wanted to share it with you.
It's really cool. We do love dreams. Yeah. I'm a big fan of dreams, yeah. Especially when you're in Dieta and working with plants. Oftentimes the healing and messages comes through in the dream realm. So yeah, I think it's one of the first things we talk about every morning. What did you dream about? What did you dream about?
Yeah, it's the same in my family too. And my partner and I are big into lucid dreaming and that realm too. And we had actually connected in dreams several times before we got together, and that was pretty wild. I remember this one distinct dream that I had. I was in Savannah, and there was this energy that came to me, and he was masculine, but I couldn't really see his face. And then he just embraced me, and it was this golden light. And as soon as he embraced me, he's like, "Thank you for everything you've given to me in my life." And hugged me, and I was like, "I don't even know you. Like, who are you? Who is this?" And as soon as he hugged me, like my energy like spiraled, into this vortex, and I was like, "Whoa!" It's one of those dreams where you wake up and you're like, "Where is reality? How am I feeling in my body?" And after we got got together, because we had known each other 9 years ago, we went on one date, and then time happens, and we're always on the periphery. And then when we got back together, or got together, I told him this dream, and then he's like, "I have a really big connection to Savannah." So he had gone there, and he feels like a really big soul connection to the space. And just recognizing, I was like, I was in Savannah having that dream, and the energy just felt, and it feels like the energy, like his energy feels like that, what I felt in the dream. So it's pretty wild how we can
That's
access these
beautiful.
planes.
Thank you for sharing. Is that Savannah, Georgia?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's where he was born.
It's going.
Really?
Lived for my life there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Also,
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about dreams.
Yeah, dreams are fascinating. I've started to talk more about them in so hold online ceremonies, and because lots of people are really tapping into dreams. And there was a book about dreaming and lucid dreaming that I shared, and I read another book, but we've tried it. Like, can we meet in our dreams? Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But I just find them so fascinating. And when we were in this retreat, we were really encouraged to dream journal. Like, as soon as we wake up, just brain dump before you do anything, even if it's like on the way to the toilet on your phone. Because when you like tap into the subconscious and you write about it and you track them, it's like a signal to the subconscious, like, hey, I'm interested. I want to get to know you. I want to bring this stuff, into the consciousness, whether it's for healing, transformation, messages. So yeah, they're so fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. I love the dream work.
Yeah, and what's coming to Blue Lotus as well, of course, is really good for lucid dreaming and helping with dreams.
Do you work with Blue Lotus with
Um,
cacao?
yeah, I haven't had it in a while, but yeah, we've had quite a few Blue Lotus and cacao ceremonies. They're really, really beautiful, powerful plants. Yeah, some here.
we do.
Are you familiar with Charlie Morley at all? Okay, so he's from the UK, and he's like a lucid dreaming teacher. And
Okay.
then I did his course on Mind Valley, and I really loved it. And his energy is really fascinating. Just the aspects of deep healing that you can access through lucid dreams. Like when we become conscious in the dream, then you can call upon aspects of yourself that you want to heal, and then they come forth in these archetypes, and sometimes in the way that you couldn't even possibly imagine, like, oh my gosh, this is it. And then embracing that, or having a dialogue there. I That's so fun, because it's like you can heal on the physical plane in the waking world, or you can go to sleep and then practice that lucidity, this lucidity and the presence that we cultivate in waking life, and then bring it into the dream world. It's a lot of fun. Have you been connected to the dream world your whole life, or is that like a newer development?
I feel like it's a new development over the last few years. I feel like I've always had dreams, but they've become like deeper and I'm more vivid, I think, over the last few years. Like I'll kind of go through phases. Sometimes they'll be super vivid and other times they won't be. But I feel like certainly since delving into the healing journey and working with plants, they've become a lot more healing. Like I really love the dream journaling. I'm going to start doing it because we're talking about it. Because I remember when I was doing it at the beginning of the year, it's like, wow. And then really reflecting on like, okay, what's the lesson here, or what's the reflection, or what's the theme? This is something they talked about in one of the books I read. It's like, what's the theme that keeps coming up, and what is this theme trying to like tell you? Is it like a fear that keeps coming up? Is it like, a belief issue or a lack of trust or fear of abandonment, like these type things? And okay, what can we do to really zone in and just heal and work on that fear? So yeah, I definitely feel like my dream realm's got deeper and deeper over the last few years.
Yeah, same for me. Yeah, I think before I got on the healing journey, the dreams were just kind of something that happened. And I didn't really understand them. I wasn't really engaging with them. And then just through, this sheer amount of odd and peculiar dreams, or I felt like I was very directly being communicated with, began to realize their potential. Like for instance, in the jungle one time, for me, oftentimes I find that if a being or my own subconscious is really trying to reach me, it will be like the last thing in the dream. And then I'll be like, this, we want you to remember this.
Interesting.
And I was in a dream and I just started hearing this mantra, Haraguru, 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 Haraguru. And I didn't really know what it meant. I got up and I was like, this is either some mumbo jumbo or it means something. And I later found out this is Shiva. This Haraguru is attached to Shiva. And the plant I was working with, Pinot Blanco, is one of the rare plants that radiates entirely of light. Most plants have an element of darkness to them, just like we do. This plant is pure light. So in human form, for me, he seems masculine. He radiates like Christ or like Shiva. Initiated my relationship with Shiva through this plant, opening me up and kind of giving me a nudge. And then over time began to see the healing that can happen in the dream space and engaging with it. It's not just premonitions or things like this. Like, serious healing happens in that space. And definitely seeing what's happening, within my being. If I'm experiencing some form of stress or anxiety. Like last night, I had a dream about this podcast and it wasn't going very well. And, I woke up and my interpretation is, well, that's not a premonition. We're going to say that. I'm not seeing into the future. We're going to say that I'm feeling a bit of anxiety. And that's presenting itself within this space. And I can now do things to heal that anxiety within that dream space. I think some of it happened within the dream space. It was a form of cleansing. And then also moving into the morning to feel good, to feel relaxed.
There is a really beautiful technique and strategy that I love to use from Charlie Morley. And he says, if you're in a nightmare or if there's anything else that you're feeling that isn't good in the dream, he's like, hug it. You just got to go and hug it. And he says the power of just embracing that within the nightmare, within that anxiety, whatever it is. And it's, sometimes you're like, how do I hug this thing? You find a way just like to love it. And then what transforms and how it begins to show its true form. And I have done that a few times in some of my nightmares where I've had some nightmares and then I'll become lucid in the dream, and then I'll try my best to just go over and, hug the person that's chasing me or whatever it is. And the energetic release and the emotional release that happens from that space. And when we look at it, from my understanding, is like we're embracing that part of ourselves that we were rejecting maybe, or that just wants attention. Because those dreams, it's like a last ditch effort. Like, wake up, we're trying to tell you something. We're trying to communicate with you. How are you going to listen? So finally it's like a nightmare and it's like, all right, we got your attention. Now begin to integrate that. And I love how you said too, it's like it was a part of the healing as well, that space of having the dream the night before, of like starting that healing journey. And so many good things. So many fun things about dreams. Yeah. One of my favorite tools I would also like to share with you too, I also got from Charlie, is dream interpretation. And he has a really simple, depending on your definition of simple, way of deciphering your own dreams. And it works when you have less complex dreams. So if there's not too much happening, not too much plot happening, you take whatever dream you're having and whatever symbol it is. So if it's, say it's nighttime outside, then you think and feel into, what does night represent for me? And then you write down, I usually write down on half of my page, I write down night, and then I'll write like represents mystery, represents like the unknown, represents potential. And then there was water in my dream one time. So writing down what water means to me. And then it's like the flow, the possibility, and all this stuff. And then you go through each major part of the symbols that are coming up, and then write the meaning for you. And then basically you just mad lib it. So you have your dream and it's this kind of cryptic dream, this happened, then that happened, that's weird. And then you replace it with your own definition of those symbols, and then you have like a clear reading of your dream. And I remember that because I had a dream a couple months ago where I was somewhere I didn't know, and it was nighttime, and I was in a nightgown, and this guy was talking to me, and he said, "You wanna see my boat? I have a cool boat." And I was like, didn't really want to, but I was kind of curious. And I was like covering myself up with my nightgown. And we went on the boat, and it was really congested in this canal. And then suddenly it became daylight, and he made an unexpected turn down this really calm canal. And all these puppies, like golden retriever puppies, started running towards me. And then I went to the end of the canal, and it was this beautiful house on the water. And I was there, and I was like, "What are these puppies? They're so cute. Can I have one?" They're like, "No, they have to stay with their mom until they're ready, and then they're gonna go." So when I put it in my dream decoder, I was wearing this nightgown, which represented like beauty for me. There's this really pretty one, and then I was trying to cover up the beauty, and I was talking to this guy I didn't feel comfortable with, but the boat represented possibility and potential for me. I grew up on the water on Long Island, so it was like you're going out into the bay, it's like freedom. And so I go into this boat with this guy who's showing me, says, "I can show you freedom," and it's all congested, and all these other boats and like thoughts in the canal are there. And then we make an unexpected turn, and the puppies represented my childhood dreams and aspirations and hopes. These puppies come running towards me, but my dreams and aspirations come running towards me. And then I flow down this canal to the end of the house, where this house represents just like wealth. People by the water here have money. It's like, so they're in this house of wealth, and all of these puppies, so my hopes and dreams are in the house of wealth, but they're still with their mother, and they're not ready to leave yet. But when they're ready to leave, they will find their home. And it was a little bit long-winded, but you see like yeah, and I was like, whoa, that's what the dream meant. Like, huge. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's Charlie Moore.
Charlie Morley. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting stuff. And how we have all the answers inside of us. Like, it's just my own relationship to what a golden retriever means, what my relationship to what the night means.
Yes, it's fascinating. I talk about dreams all day and dream interpretation, so thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for receiving. I'm curious about your vessels that you have.
They're from Peru.
They're so
Yeah,
beautiful.
they're really cute. We have some other ones that have got like kind of Andean paintings on them, but they have handles. So these are the ones we tend to drink out of.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
very beautiful.
Thank you.
Beauty and simplicity.
Yeah.
So I'm just feeling into here if there's anything else you would really like to share about cacao, or what you feel like for our listeners, what's coming up for you, what you feel like needs to be shared in this moment.
Gratitude, your host, and to all the beautiful souls that have joined us in this space. Our approach to this discussion, this conversation with cacao, was to essentially approach it as we would a ceremony. We have our altar.
Yes.
Idea. So we're really, really grateful to be sharing this space with each of you, and can feel your love and your energy, and the love and energy of you, Alexandria, and of course, Mama Cacao.
There is still this energy for me because I want to come back to the space. And I also, again, would like to know a little bit more about your journey, how you spoke about the Camino and the Camino de Santiago, and how, so it's like a twofold question. The essence of the journey and the meditation of the walking and being on the path and presence. And maybe that's directed towards you, Alex. And then not only your journey and your upbringing and your relationship to, Scotland and then London, and your journey of presence. I think it's so beautiful, the presence that you both walk in. And you were saying that you both had a little bit more trying relationships with your jobs when you were working and, the humanitarian efforts and in the corporate world. and that you both began this journey on the Camino. And you take it any way that you would like to, but I'm really curious about your past Natalie and the relationship to how you walked your life, that it led you there, and those breakthrough moments that you left the corporate world. And for you, Alex, that deepening of just really bringing our listeners along that journey of the Camino, of like that real, what it takes to walk that path with presence. Yeah, if that those questions landed. Okay.
So let me go back. So I lived in Scotland till I was about 20, 21. I never planned to move to London. I just kind of fell into it through work and had an opportunity to just stay there, and it just, okay, mum, dad, I'm not coming back. So I kind of just flowed into it, started working in recruitment. It was good. I had fun in my 20s, but I was very, very much caught up in, drinking and partying, and it was another lifetime. And at the time, I didn't know, I was just not happy. I was just depressed. I was in a high stress job. I was quite clearly escaping, through different substances, and was just in that world. I think it was when I was like kind of towards the end of my 20s, turning like 30, I started really being like, okay, I'm gonna, stop drinking and try and like look after myself more. I did used to do yoga quite a bit. But really the really depths of depression for me were lockdown. So I went back home to live for about 6 months, and I really struggled with the lack of independence. Like, I love home, I love my family, but I was used to a very independent lifestyle. So it was back there having all these rules and not being able to do what I wanted to do. I seeked help. So I seek therapy. I was recommended to take pills. And I said, I don't want to do that. And it was around about this time that I started really just working on myself, just working with the moon, started joining moon circles, realizing that there was another way to heal myself of what was going on. And also at the time I started cycling, which was a big breakthrough for me. I started caring much more about fitness and actually seeing that I can feel better, without alcohol, and just getting out there cycling around the countryside in Scotland with my mum. My mum cycles. She actually got me into it. So I kind of just started seeing there was like another way to live. And I feel like taking me out of London, not through choice, was really a breakthrough in its own way for me, and very healing. I hadn't lived at home for like nine years. So it helped me really connect with my family more, with my younger brother. Our relationship has always been a bit volatile, but I was put in a situation that I had to heal my ancestral line, heal my family. And as well as that, really delving deeper into, okay, what's going on here? Because I don't want to do the antidepressants and things. I want to find another way. So therapy helped me a lot. I was in therapy for a while, right up until just before I went to the jungle. She wasn't super supportive of what I ended up doing. So I'm going to leave the world of recruitment and go to the jungle and do this. And but she was lovely, and I have a lot of love and respect for her, because I really started to untangle a lot. A lot of healing, a lot of, inner child work, a lot of traumas. So I feel like that in combination was a breakthrough in its own way, just a longer one. And then doing the practices with the moon, joining women's circles and coming together, working on using my voice, self-expression has been a really big part of my healing. So yeah, and then of course Mama Cacao came along, and that's when things really started to accelerate. On top of working with the medicine and going to some retreats, it's all kind of interweaved, and things just started happening really, really quickly. Like the Reiki for me was another breakthrough, this unraveling of the heart, and realizing that actually, I can self-heal. You do like 21 days self-healing when when you're training for Reiki. So realizing that I actually can move these energies, and knowing that just that self-awareness, I think, was really key for me in my healing journey, and being able to look at, this has been triggered. Okay, well, I spoke about this with my therapist. That's what that route is. Like, what can I do? Maybe my inner child just needs nurture. Maybe she needs to go on a date and eat ice cream on a beach. Like, just, whatever was kind of needed. But I got to the point in my role, I was kind of living in two different worlds. I'd gone to a couple of retreats, I'd been shown, you're here to heal, this is what you're here to do. Mama Cacao is involved in that. And luckily at the time, because COVID was kind of still a thing, we weren't having to be in the office a lot. And I found after one retreat, things would just happen that meant I couldn't be in. Like I fell off my bike and like hurt my wrist and couldn't like go into work for a while. And it was just like the universe kind of like we talked about earlier, these little signs like this isn't where you're supposed to be anymore. So I think what I noticed, because I was kind of doing all this healing and starting to really find myself and heal the anxiety and depression, and I would go into particular environments and it was just like very clear, like we spoke about earlier, your vibration changes, your frequency changes, and it was just a case of I have to step away from this for my mental health and to just surrender, to just trust into the known and surrender. So it just became very clear. And of course, the trip to Peru was originally meant to be 4 weeks, but turned into, well, about, I think, a couple months. And I couldn't have done that, I couldn't have just, oh, by the way, I'm gonna pop off for a month and a half and try and find this cacao for this business idea I have. So it was kind of just all following and trusting the signs, the universe, the guides, and really feeling like this is just what I have to do. Yeah, take that leap.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing more of your journey. And for me, it brings more clarity into the picture and also understanding like how you relate to your intuition. And I think there's something so beautiful you said where it's like I didn't realize there was a different life that could be possible. And like just opening and cracking open that lens of like, wait, there is a different possibility. And if this is possible, what else is possible too? Very inspiring and very beautiful. So thank you for sharing your journey in that depth. And also like, oh my gosh, how many people I've heard of COVID brought you back home and you gotta face your life and your family.
I mean, I thought I was going to move to Australia. Like, but the year before that, I'd gone through a really messy breakup, and one of my best friends lived in Sydney. She's like, "Just come out, come on, Nat, just come out, come 3 weeks, we'll have a great time." And that was it. I fell in love with it. I was like, "Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a visa." I had interviews, I had second interviews, and everything in that February, and then literally like that happened, and it's just amazing because obviously it's quite clearly like where I wasn't supposed to be. So it's it's just very interesting how that kind of situation opened up like a world of possibilities and led me to my path.
Always beautiful to hear. I would say that my path to presence was and still is, although not as high of a percentage of it now, was nature driven. Long before I realized it. Similar to Natalie, our timelines really aligned before we met each other, but my healing also took off at like 29, 30. And a couple of years before then, 26, 27, I'm a Peace Corps volunteer in Kyrgyzstan. For those who don't know, Kyrgyzstan is in the Central Asia. It's 97% mountains. It's called like the Swiss Alps of Central Asia. And I lived in a small ski resort town called Karakol. And I was surrounded on both sides in this valley by massive snow-peaked mountains. I hadn't really ever spent time around mountains like this. Mountains in Chattanooga are much, much smaller. And they were mesmerizing. And I would spend hours looking at them when I would take the marshrutka, the little van to the capital, Bishkek. It's like a 6-7 hour journey. I would just be looking at them the whole time. And I came to realize that I was carrying a lot of expectations for myself and for what my life would be like. Pressure. I really got to do a lot of things. I got to go do this. Maybe I'll be president. Who knows? Right? I got to do stuff. And looking at these mountains, and they're magnificent, I felt small, but in a good way. I looked at them and I realized how long they had been there, and that I was going to be here but a fraction of time. And that, you know what, I probably won't be in the history books, but that's okay. And that element of my ego started kind of unraveling. What do I really want? What am I trying to do? am I reaching for a status? And I started at that point moving closer and closer to this idea of just being of service. I realized I liked working with people. And from there, now, of course, there's still ego involvement at this point, all right? There's still this idea of progressing. And I ended up in Cairo, opposite of where I was, a city of 20 million people with a really high poverty level, extremely intense city, tons of pollution, horns constantly blowing, doing this really intense job working with refugees. Our office was almost under a bridge, which is like the loudest place in Cairo with the horns blaring. My life was nonstop intensity. And every now and then I would get out to the desert or to the Red Sea for a few days because Egypt has tremendous nature. And I would just start feeling relaxed again. And then the drive back to the city, you hear the first horn. And then it would be, and then I ended up in Bahrain after then. And this was at really the peak of my depression. And Bahrain is a little island that's connected to Saudi Arabia via a bridge. It's a very small island, city-state essentially. And I didn't know anyone there. And I felt totally alone and isolated, like physically and emotionally. And that's when I went to the Camino. And I didn't realize it at the time. I was just trying to get away. So I realized what I was doing wasn't working. I was having issues with alcohol. I was just going deeper and deeper. And the Camino brought me back to nature, just walking every day. And then the process of going somewhere, but also being present, it's a pilgrimage. It's led by a saint. I didn't have that sort of intention in it at all. Many people do, but I didn't at that time. If we go back and walk it together, I will. But it was that anyways for me. Just being outside, like pretty much all day. All of a sudden my mind started quieting. I started feeling better. And I started to understand that there was something about nature for me. So that led within a couple of months to starting to work with plants. I would go back to Cairo for another few months, 6, 7 months of quite serious intensity. And then before taking my job in Kenya, I had a couple months off. And I was like, I'm going to go to the jungle for a month. So again, there's this nature thing. And that month in the jungle revolutionized my life. I came into that month with the idea of advancing meditation, but not really any idea of what it would actually mean to experience a higher level of consciousness and what it would actually be like to be more open to the spiritual realm and how that would impact my life. I had no idea. And it happened there during that month, again, surrounded by plants, surrounded by birds, without distractions, just Mother Earth pulling me into her bosom. Like, this is it. Like, this is your path. Like, be with me. Don't be in these big cities so much. It was from there that I would end up going to Kenya, which would be my last post in the humanitarian relief field. Before then, I would spend a month at home with my family, which again would become a reoccurring theme in the spiritual process, that I would constantly end up circling back to my family far more than I had the previous decade. Each time healing more and more. Firstly, with the land, with the Chattanooga Valley, it's immensely beautiful here. People are really friendly here. They're really nice. But I had some shame about being from this region, about the political energies here. I felt shameful about it, and I would often kind of skew it when I was abroad. I never imagined I would ever live here. So why would I ever live in this place? But each time I came here, I healed more and more. And it started with the nature. It started with the forest. It started with the mountains. And I started to appreciate that if I could really live anywhere, nature-wise, I love these forests here. I love North American forest. They're really, really beautiful. And Northern Hemisphere forest in general, including Europe. They're very different than South American jungle forest. I like this forest. I love the size of these mountains. They're also similar to Scottish Highlands. It's different than the ski resort towns, which have harsh winters. We have lovely 4 seasons. It's spring now. The leaves are changing colors. It's tremendous. I didn't have that in the jungle. I had rain season, I had dry season. Winters aren't too rough. So I started falling in love with just the land here, and the oaks and the birds that would come here, and the seasons, appreciating the strength of winter, the trees burying their leaves, and you just see their strength. I started feeling that energy. And then at the same time, nature and the meditation and all my practices were pulling me more into presence. And a lot of my focus initially was just, I need to quiet my mind. And I kind of viewed this space a lot of times as like an obstacle course. Like the mind's throwing things at me nonstop, and I'm just trying not to entertain it. But then I started turning into, now we need to face this heavy energy you're carrying. Now we need to heal. This is the work. You have the presence now. You have the ability to sit. Now you need to sit and be uncomfortable. Now you need to sit and cry. And I spent an extended time with my family in a year healing family wounds. In my household, I think that went before this lifetime, healing ancestry wounds and having uncomfortable conversations at times. Very uncomfortable conversations at times. And perhaps letting my family see this other side of what I was doing. Because this transformation I was going through, walking away from this beautiful career that I had built, and saying, no, I'm just going to flow about and see what happens, was shocking for them. And then ultimately seeing, looking back at how our relationship transformed and how beautiful my relationship is with my family and my parents. It was already good. But like anyone, there are issues to heal back in there. Healing all these wounds from childhood, it really strengthened my relationships with my family. I remember remembering at the time how easily I could be triggered by one of my parents. And I felt bad. I was like, if anyone deserves my patience, it's my parents. But these are the hardest people for me to give it to. I'm losing my temper with them. Like, why can I do this with other people but not with them? But as I healed more and more, all of a sudden my patience returned. And I could sit in presence. I could see them in a loving energy. I could not judge them. I could not be triggered. And our relationship flourished. And then that healing, right, that bringing the shadow into the light leads to greater presence, not resisting it as much. And a telltale sign for me, if I am getting uncomfortable with something going on in life, or if there's just some sort of anxiety going on, I will consume more stimuli. I'll be more attached to my phone or listening to unproductive podcasts. I will be less likely to want to just walk in silence. And I have to see those warning signs because it is a constant, in an element, struggle or challenge to remain in that presence. And gratefully, I have a loving partner who helps point out those things. Why are you listening to basketball podcasts when showering? Why can we not shower in silence? Right? I'm avoiding something. And then making the time to then do the practices when I can to shake off that energy. And we're fortunate and blessed to be surrounded by nature. And we can get to trails in like 7-10 minutes, but it's not like we can walk into a trail in our backyard. So we still have the inspiration of nature. We still go to nature as much as we can. We look at the mountains, we sit on our back porch. It's beautiful, but it's different.
Yeah.
Now it's also these other practices. I'm not fully immersed in the jungle with literally no one around me. I'm in society now, and society brings a great many gifts, but it also brings challenges. Navigating those energies and developing other practices is essentially where I'm at.
I think it's really important to notice those indicators, those triggers that we have, like, oh, yeah, I'm noticing there's something here for me, because I do the same thing. I start eating more sugar, and I'm not super coffee drinker, but I'll be like, you know what? I could go for espresso today. Like taking more like, let's go. And then it's recognizing, oh wait, why why am I trying to keep myself so busy? Why am I trying to do these things so fast? Just becoming aware of our own internal, like red flags or warning signs. You're running on empty. It's time to fill up your tank. And being respectful and compassionate enough to ourselves to actually listen, and courageous enough. I think it comes down to that too. I'm also somebody who's like worked with depression in my life and anxiety, and had a lot of that since I was a teenager. And again, one that was like, no, I'm not doing pills. I'm not going on the pharmaceutical route. And I would research so many different options of all the different kinds of plants that would help, and these techniques and breathing techniques. And I went down so many rabbit holes of wanting to heal my depression naturally, and coming down, for me, the fact that this is not medical information, please, everybody, disclaimer. We're just having a conversation. This is my own insights and their own insights. But for me, recognizing that it's all my thoughts, where are my thoughts guiding me? And recognizing that I can actually steer myself. And the more I think negatively about myself, the more fixed I am in my mindset, in where I am in my reality, then the depression comes on, and it can get, really strong from that sense. But then noticing what tools I have, and from both of you speaking to the fact that you've had depression and anxiety, if what your journey with that was, and again, not medical advice, just disclaimer to everybody, legal disclaimer, but for your journey, and for people who maybe are just curious about, that might be having these challenges, of how you went through that and your relationship to depression and anxiety as well.
I would say in regards to thoughts, and this takes a while perhaps to really be able to bring this into practice and integrate it. This does kind of every practice. As one of my teachers said, it's really easy to pick up a bad habit, like sugar. I have sugar. It's harder to integrate healthier habits. It takes a little bit more time. But this wisdom is inspired by Dr. Alan Watts. It's one of my earliest spiritual inspirations before I was meditating. This is where I got the idea that it was a good idea to meditate. This guy seems kind of wise. He always talks about not taking things too seriously. So I take that approach specifically to thoughts. Now, if you are in the forest, it's hard to see your way out, right? You're covered by the trees. And if someone says, don't take these trees around you seriously, well, they're there. I can't go through them, right? So I say that with a compassionate awareness that if you are in the thick of it, that can seem like a ridiculous idea. Like, these thoughts are representing my reality and I'm facing these struggles. To have that as a light, to just understand that thoughts do not always have to be taken seriously. They are powerful, they can be your friend, and they can make your life more challenging. But to get that distance, to not identify with them, that is not who you are. I've had thoughts tell me that I'm not a good person, self-esteem thoughts. That's not who I am. That's a product of a mind. It's just creating things. And as I became more present and as I practiced more, I got more and more distance from them, to where in some ways they wouldn't hurt as much, right? I have that distance, but at the same time, I could go feel them because it's resonating with an energy in the body that needs to be released. And at sometimes I can almost find humor in them and say, well, that's funny. I'm not going to do that. Like, this person has said something to me that for some reason has triggered some energy within me. I am definitely not going to respond in the way that my mind just told me to respond. And I'm definitely not going to really take it in that because I just misspoke, that I did a terrible job, right? Like, I misspoke. It's fine. People don't expect me to be perfect, right? And yeah, just that space, not taking them too seriously.
Yeah, I think for me, the journey with it was really like self-awareness is a superpower, keeps coming to me because we've just spoken about self-awareness. This is something I spoke about on the ceremony I held for the full moon a couple of days ago, that self-awareness is a superpower. So it's just leaning into the acceptance that these feelings are okay and realizing that they're not permanent. That impermanence So realizing and accepting that it will pass. I think for me, realizing what I was putting into my body, food, alcohol, Instagram, whatever I was consuming, as I was getting deeper into my healing, I could see what wasn't serving, what was actually making me feel worse. And as I kind of started to pull away, which was hard in lockdown, because you just, what else are you supposed to do? Enjoy good food, your family, have a glass of wine. But I think for me, like I said earlier, I feel like cycling was a big breakthrough for me. And it's actually realizing, okay, if I go out and do this for like an hour or two a day, I get these endorphins. But if I go and do this tonight, how am I going to feel tomorrow? And it was almost that kind of like reprogramming of thinking, okay, well, if I do this tonight or I eat this, drink this, whatever it may be, how am I going to feel tomorrow? And then noticing, when I would kind of lean into it and just indulge, really noticing that I would start to feel even worse. And, I'd spend a day in bed and I'd be like, oh, I didn't get out cycling, I didn't get out for a walk. And really just having that self-awareness of these little like changes, which started as really subtle changes, but just similar to Alex, like just observing and bringing awareness to, okay, if I don't do this, I'm going to feel better. And then eventually just kind of reprogramming that and realizing that there's, like I said, there's another way to be that can help alleviate those symptoms and those thoughts. But I feel something you talked about earlier about conditioning and this kind of programming, especially kind of in the corporate world, like the career ladder. And I did love it. It was being in service in another way, but I have to do this by the time I'm like this age, or have to, get married, buy a house, do this, do that. And just all these kind of conditions and the societal stuff that, we're brought up in. And that was quite like a heavy thing for me when I was struggling with anxiety and depression, because I thought, what am I doing? I don't see that vision. I don't want to go and buy a house. I don't know. It's very, grounding. So I feel like, with the healing and the opening up to actually there's other paths, that's just what you've been taught and told and expected to be. So I feel like that kind of helped pull me out of it a little bit, to realize that, there's actually endless opportunities out there. It's up to us to create it and break out of the norm, ultimately, create the new earth and all that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both for sharing your insights. And I definitely resonate with what you said too, of that creating that space and awareness. Yeah, self-awareness is a superpower. I love that.
Yeah.
So much good information and mana and wisdom to integrate. And yeah, the compassion for where we are, right, in those spaces, because they can feel pretty dark and helpless and hopeless. But like you said, yeah, this will pass too. And just allowing that space and that breath and just that trust, right? The trust that we're talking about, of cultivating more spaciousness in our minds and bodies for something new to come in and the magic to weave itself into beautiful orchestration. One of my favorite questions to ask our guests is, what is your favorite thing about being human?
Jen, okay. Okay, what's coming through is like our senses. So like I have to usually in a ceremonial space, but I'll talk about, we'll be really slow with drinking our cacao, and I'll guide people, embody your senses, feel the warmth of mama cacao, feel like the taste. So I think that's the great thing about being human, is that we have all these senses. I can look outside and just see greenery, I can see you, and just I can feel mama cacao, and just having those senses to embody that, are just really, really beautiful.
Yeah, embodiment, having a body.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fantastically complex beings. We're really, really, really beautiful. And I read a book by neuroscientist David Eagleman years ago, and he talked about our evolution of how we understood how humans are. That for a long time, humans in relation to other species, we thought we were special because we didn't have as many instincts. Right, we have greater control, and these animals are only instincts. What modern neuroscientists are actually coming to see is that we actually have more instincts than anybody. And that's what makes us special, because we do fantastically complex things without really thinking about it. So for me, it's piggybacking into that same idea, just going back to the fact that we are in this fantastic physical form, that we have all of these senses, that we have the ability through the fact that we are beings at such a level of spiritual development that we can have high levels of self-awareness if we cultivate it, that we can then utilize these senses to cultivate it even further and intensify them. When you first have like a date, I had one last night. I love dates, especially with peanut butter. And you just have it. That's it. You don't have it and talk. You don't have it and listen to anything. You don't eat the date and even think about eating the date. You just give yourself to that moment and to that sense, that really basic thing that you might say other species do. They just consume it. It's so good. It's way better.
Yes, to both of your answers. I love them. And I think the reason why I love this question is, everybody's answer is so unique, and it brings that excitement back to being in this body, being on this earth, because there are so many heavy things out there. There's so much, the world is crazy, but it's also beautiful. Being human's complicated, but it's also beautiful. So all of these insights, may they just inspire and awaken this new perspective of the possibility of what we can be. And I am so excited to share a blessing from our previous guest with you. Part of the tradition on this podcast is having the previous guest leave a blessing for our current guest here. And so this is a blessing from Katie to you both, and just open up and receive.
My blessing for you is to listen to your heart's calling, and to allow yourself to soften into that space of the heart, to let that be your guide, and to lead your life through love, and to see the world with so much beauty and so much joy and abundance and possibility, and allowing yourself to be creative and to be fully in expression with your truth, shining your gift, shining your light, sharing yourself with the world unapologetically, and knowing that by you embodying who you are inspiring everybody around you and giving permission for them to be themselves too. And knowing that we all are on our own individual journeys, coming home in the remembrance of who we truly are, and also co-creating this beautiful space together to give and receive wisdom and love and joy, and that it will always be what it's meant to be. And so it is.
So beautiful.
Just beaming all that love towards you. Those words, those activations. And if you feel called to share a blessing for our next guest, it would be an honor to then pass your blessings along.
Yeah.
And you can both speak if you want to. We can get double blessed.
I'd like this moment to be an opportunity to remember who you are, to connect with your heart, the spirit, Pachamama, and to know that you are enough. You are enough in this moment. You are enough in every moment. May you feel at all moments, even through life's challenges, the vibration of love that is you. May this vibration be a guide. May it help you move deeper into presence and into ultimate, full realization of I am. I am enough. I am enough. I am love. I am love. I am love. Namaste.
I give thanks to your heart. May it continue to open to receive any messages on this journey, and just to trust. Yeah, just feeling into that love frequency. Yeah.
And so it is. Well, thank you both so much for your time, for your wisdom, for your presence, for your energy, and really, taking the time to connect and have a conversation with Cacao.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, it's been really beautiful.
A wonderful time. Thank you.
So allowing ourselves to feel deeply nourished by all of the places that we explored, all of the adventures that we went on, the ideas that were illuminated and the seeds planted, the activation of the remembrance of our connection to our plants, to our minds, to our bodies, and to this earth, and allowing our feet to begin to really touch down to this earth and presence, even if they're not physically on the earth, but allowing that sensation of our feet really on the earth, feeling that connection anchoring down to this beautiful planet that we're on, allowing our spine and crown to open towards the heart of the sky as we receive and embody the beautiful light and the darkness of the cosmos, of this universe that we're in. And allowing our thoughts to begin to settle, allowing our breath to begin to expand again in consciousness, and allowing yourself as the sovereign director of your free will to initiate integration in your life, allowing space for healings to occur with grace and with ease, and allowing anything that needs, wants to, desires to be seen in love, to be shown to you with gentleness, love, and grace. And from the space of deep reverence, of connection, of humility, placing one hand on our heart, one hand on our belly or our womb space, and feeling this connection to the earth as we give thanks to the heart of the earth. Feeling our connection to the heart of the sky as we give thanks to the heart of the sky. Feeling our connection to the air as we take a deep breath in. Exhaling our gratitude for the heart of the air. Connecting in with the heart of the waters as we give thanks to the heart of the water. And connecting into the heart of the fire as we give thanks to the heart of the fire. Giving thanks to the heart of ether and to the heart of the void. And to all of our guides, our guardians, our protectors, the deities that work with us, the ascended masters that work with us, the plant masters that work with us, our ancestral lines that give us support and guidance in every moment. Blessing and thanking everything that has been, everything that will be, and everything that ever was. And from the center of our heart, pouring our love into the heart and the vibration of Mama Cacao as we give thanks to this beautiful, beautiful sacred medicine. Thank you to the heart of Mama Cacao. Closing this space in a good way, knowing that it is done, it is done, it is done, and it is fun, it is fun, it is fun. Aho.
It was really beautiful.
Thank you for joining us for today's beautiful conversation with the founders of Conscious Cacao. May their story remind you of the unexpected ways love and spirit and sacred plants weave through our lives, guiding us home to purpose, connection, and the heart of what truly matters. If you feel inspired, I invite you to explore their cacao, sit with it, share it, and feel the love and intention that they pour into every step of their process. As a special thank you for being a part of this community, you can take 15% off your order with the code CONVERSATIONS15, valid in both the US and the UK shops. You can find out more about Conscious Cacao and their offerings on their website, consciouscacao.co.uk. Thank you so much for being a part of this time together, this conversation, and this circle. You are felt here. And as always, may your roots be so nourished and filled with all of the things you need to grow and thrive. May your heart awaken to the remembrance of the beauty that you truly are. And may you see your own magic because you are pure magic. Ciao for now.